Welcome to the Fail Forward podcast. The purpose of this podcast is change the negative stigma around failure into a positive. Failure is only a negative if we do not learn from it and we give up. Welcome back to the Fail Forward podcast. Today I've got Toyin. Toyin is the founder of Icon Range, creating real value in people and places, a successful property company specialising in new build property, commercial conversions, lettings, hospitality and a property academy. Wow, sounds like you've created a lot, Toyin. So tell me, welcome to the podcast firstly, and tell me how it all started for you. Where's your journey start really? Go back as far as you need to give us some context.
Well, it depends on how far back. I mean, I'd say I grew up in a family where a loving family. Dad and mom was present throughout, and they instilled in me a lot of values that, although I'd say, if looking back now, our background was a humble beginning. We're comfortable, very comfortable. I think more like the average family. I grew up in Nigeria, and what they did was invest a lot in our education and make sure that we have the best. However, we didn't have all the luxuries, and they gave us the very best they could. But as you know, the very best, I mean, looking back now, the very best was very average, if not less. But I think growing up, having that good foundation that propelled me to want more in life, to want the best. And although it wasn't available initially, I was always striving to get that. And fast forward a few years from then, I remember relocating to the UK as a graduate from university and having to work in McDonald's. I would never forget, if you were back with me a few years ago now, I can't remember what year now, and I was told by my manager in McDonald's at the time, and she literally rebuked me and said I wasn't good in what I was doing. I wasn't frying chips. Actually, backtrap. I remember when I went for the interview and I was given. I looked around. Most of the people around me were very young, I'll say young kids, young ones. At the time, obviously in their 16s, and yeah, I was as a graduate, but I needed to make a living. I needed money to leave. Obviously, I'd newly relocated to the UK, and I the interviewer just spotted me and said, I think you'll be good. You look like you need the money, and you definitely would stay with us long term." And it was a humbling statement, and although that got me through the doors, because obviously I was a matured young lady who needed a job. It got me through the doors and I got the job. That statement forever rang in my brain to say, wow, I look like I do need the money. I look like I'll stay longer. And for me, that was a reminder that I need to make sure that I do not stay for long. And obviously we're going through all of that, transcending from that. Then I always had it at the back of my mind that I needed to strive, I needed to work hard, I needed to get myself financially free. And then fast forward, I mean, I haven't done that minimum wage job for a while. It did pay the bills. Obviously, the bills was basic. Uh, Literally just survival mode, in less than survival mode, to be fair. And we eventually got that job, did that for a few years, and I was striving for more. Then managed to get myself into the corporate environment, and it looked like there was freedom. It looked like, wow, I finally arrived. I had a good job. It was paying well, but I realized that the dreams I had right from when I was a child, to be financially free, to be able to help others, to actually afford the fine things of life, was actually not being fulfilled, because what I was doing was trading my time for money. And it didn't look like it at that time, because all I was looking at is the freedom, is the not the freedom, the financial relief I had, because my income had increased. However, well, that did change when I had my first daughter. So I got married, had my first daughter, and realized that one of the main things I've wanted to do was to be an intentional parent. I couldn't do that because as I was living in and working in London, living in Essex, and unfortunately for me, I now had a daughter that was a bit sickly. So constantly, I mean, like, she was in nursery. I'll constantly drive back and forth, because I'll get calls from the nursery to say my daughter was ill and I needed to rush back. And I think it was although it was a pain for me at the time to say, why was my daughter going through? I think it was a wake up call to say, Toyin, this is not what you were called for. This is not what you intended to do. You wanted, you had a big plan, big map right from when you were little of what you wanted to achieve. But somehow I'd found myself in the rat race and got felt like I was trapped and I was stuck and I couldn't actually move forward. And I think it was then I got my wake up call to say, you know what, enough is enough. There must be more to life than just living from paycheck to paycheck and being able to get someone to pay my bills, but didn't have control of my time. And hey, I found property. And I can tell you 10 years on, the rest is history.
Yeah, so I mean, I love that because obviously you're in McDonald's, you're there, it's money, you're in survival mode. Then you step up to the corporate job, and that's like great money. Like, yeah, I'm getting somewhere. And you know, you're right, you're exchanging time for money, and you know, you get to that point, and it's amazing actually because when we have children, I always say it like it's like the planet's realigning, right? Like you have children, and everything changes, priorities change, and actually then that corporate job that was that great step from McDonald's to corporate suddenly is like, what do I do here? So yeah, absolutely love that you had those moments and also those challenges to get through, but then to get to where you are. So tell me, when you get into property, where did you start? How did it all work? You know, what was it? Because that must have been quite daunting as well at that point, because you're leaving a corporate job where there's security and you're going off and doing something that, you know, as my mentors say, yeah, and Kevin Paneskis, like, you know, he calls us all weirdos because we're not doing the 9 to 5 exchanging time for money. So that must have been quite daunting for you. So tell us how you felt and how you got into that world.
It was daunting, but I think I'd had enough of the other world to realize my dream was being stolen away from me, and I'd gotten to that pain point where it was like enough is enough. I literally damned all the consequences at that stage, and I was one of those weirdos, as you rightly said, that literally jumped all in. I didn't build a portfolio as I went along. I literally went straight on in. Even before I bought the very first investment property, I'd left my 9 to 5, and I knew that was it. Now, obviously, at the early stages, I was thinking if it doesn't work, I need to be very quick so I can step back into my corporate role. But I can tell you that obviously I didn't because I'm here. But yeah, we had definitely a lot of challenges. I mean, I was one of those that the very first investment property I bought from at the auction because I'd consumed a lot of homes under the Emma, and I knew that I was literally following the roadmap I'd seen. You view the property, you buy it. And trust me, it wasn't easy. It wasn't like the very first auction I went in, I got the property. Absolutely no, it was a case of loads of auctions. I think at that point we bought the very first property, I had decided that, you know what, come what may, we're buying this property. So the routine, because I'd had my daughter at home, so I was obviously watching her, but the routine was I would go view the property with my daughter, and then Toby, my husband, who is also a co-founder, would go and do auctioning and the bidding. And every single time he would come back, oh, we were outbid, we were outbid. And I said, you know, the last time I said, do not come back home except you get this property. And I actually do really mean it, because I think I got to the stage I just realized, I said, even if this is going to be our way to actually learn and pay for it or whatever, I pay through our learning, let's get you, because I just wanted to cut my teeth into it to buy the properties, because I wanted to go from stage A to stage Z and know the whole process, because I knew the process of viewing, of going to auctions and reading the legal packs, but I didn't know anything else. I mean, we had done a refurb on one of our house, so but it's still not the same. So I wanted to go to the next stage, and so I just wanted to do it. So luckily for us, we got this property. It wasn't so bad. I mean, it wasn't as bad, even though we're expecting to make a loss on it. We were prepared for that. It wasn't so bad. We were able to actually make some profits. And we did that a few times and realized actually this could work. And then decide actually we're going to start keeping the profit. So it was quite daunting to start with, because of the different fields. And bear in mind that all I had in terms of support system, training, and everything was almost under the hammer. Nothing else. I had no family member that was into property. I had no mentor. I didn't even know there were networking meetings. I didn't know there was anything about the coaching world. Had absolutely no idea. So it was almost like I had to go on the hump that we were doing the right thing. But you know, when you get to the point where you know you had enough, I needed something else. I really did need something else. So I was willing to try anything.
So that gave you the determination, knowing that you did want to go back to your corporate job.
Absolutely.
Love that. And what were your family saying at this point about you leaving your corporate job? Because I expect that must have been tough.
It was tough. I had the full backing of Toby and my husband, and he knew that I wanted something more, and he wanted something more. But I guess I was the braver one. So I had his backing. Every other family member at this point, we did not disclose too much because I mean, it wasn't like I was trying to hide from anybody, but I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. So there was nothing to explain. I didn't even know what this old journey looked like. So it was nothing to explain. But the first one seemed okay. Then the second one, and then everyone else. I mean, if you've ever met my family, we always do it. We say buy one get one. Everyone tries to do the same thing. So immediately I realized it was working, and I'm always a lover of having everyone around me succeeding. That's always been my mantra. So literally just said to them, you know what, guys, something is happening here, and I can tell you all my family members are in property now.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So tell me, at that point, after the first couple, where did the journey start taking you after that?
I obviously realized that this was going to work. I was doing this full time. I was actually going in and buying the properties, getting involved with builders, getting rejection left, right, center. As someone would say to me, this they said there were three things that were working against me. At the time, I remember I went to a networking meeting, and a lady said to me, there are three things that could work against you. At the time, I was young. I don't feel that so young. She said, you're young, you're female, and you're black. And those are the three things that could work against you. And I think it was a good thing she mentioned that, because knowing that, it was never a challenge when anybody sort of put it off. The amount of times I'll go to site and I'll tell, and I'll speak to a builder and say, oh, can you tell the boss to call me? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm the boss. Because you just assume, yeah, exactly. Just assume this, you can't be your female. So we had all of those challenges. The first few, we was able to walk through all of that. But once we went through the first two, I think we did the common property investor mistake, which was, I thought, you know what, this sounds interesting. I want to buy a few more, and because I didn't have access to funds and I didn't understand how I could raise funds at the time, I started looking at buying properties up north. Now, bear in mind, I stay in the south. I started thinking, okay, actually, I'll go up north and just start because I could get a lot more. I remember going to one auction and buying three properties all up north, and I was excited. I felt that I'd arrived, and slowly I realized that the reason why I wanted to do this was to be an intentional parent, to be around for my family, to be in control of my time. But I didn't have that because I was constantly on the train to Leeds, on the train to Newcastle, just trying to sort of manage it all. And I was just like, I literally had replaced my 9 to 5 with another, excuse me, with another job. And that was not the idea of what I wanted to do. So straight away I realized, after we did it, obviously we still have a few of those in portfolio. After we did that, I just realized, no, I've got to look for a way to make sure buying around me was going to be viable for us, and we could actually make it work. And it coincided with the time where we realized, actually, if we could buy properties, do the BRR, buy, refurbish, refinance, and we don't have to sell the properties. We could then build a portfolio, because I had left my job at this time, obviously, and so my income my income had gone up. So although I was buying properties, refurbishing and selling on, and you get the bulk amount, the moment you buy the next property, you're out of cash. So we then revised how we did it, and then basically decided that I was going to do more of buying properties locally and buying something that and I didn't have to sell it on, so I could start building that cash flow, the rental income. And we eventually did that. It has been amazing to honestly looking, that's when thinking back at the story. And I think one of the things for me personally, this goes to show, is you've got to trust the process. You don't have the entire picture of what it's going to look like at the end, but you know what I mean, just trusting the process and understanding that it would take time. It did take time. There are times that where I just felt like, had I gone wrong? I mean, I had days where I'd cry and think I'd burnt my corporate bridge. I had such a big gap with my CV. I couldn't actually go back without having to start from the scratch. And then it didn't look like I could go forward as well. I wasn't quite sure what the property. And like you said, right, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't have anyone that had done this. So it wasn't like I was looking up at someone else, other than the fact that I'd watched Homes Under the Hammer. I'd seen people repeat investors coming back and buying a few. I remember one day being in the shopping mall of Sainsbury's, and I picked up my phone and I just went on Google and started looking at financial advisors all around Sainsbury's and all around where I lived. And I literally did that from Sainsbury's car park, sat down there, and I was just calling on financial advisors, like, how do people actually raise money to buy properties? Because I bought these few properties, they're waiting to be sold. I need to buy more, and I can't do this. I need more income. And basically, ring around, I was told, a lot of those people have come from very wealthy backgrounds. They have the cash. That's how they're buying these properties. And I just dropped up the phone because I know that wasn't my story. But obviously ignorance, they didn't know any better. But thankfully, yeah, I've been able to find my way, and yeah.
I absolutely love that. It's a great story. And just take me back. So when you were told by this person, you're young, you're black, you're a woman, this might, go against you. How did that make you feel? And do you think that was did that make you more determined?
I absolutely so determined. You know, when you're so convinced, like, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And I was super determined to do it at that time. And I'm very thankful she mentioned to me, because I might have gone in the blind just thinking very ambitious, I could do this, and then I would have got some knockback. I remember when one of the times we built our home, and when we bought the property that was sitting on the land, and we're going to knock it down. So we asked one of the gas engineer to come in and fix something. Now this is a private estate, and properties there are £1 million and above. And but we bought a rundown, we knocked it down. So I called him to come look at this property, and then he said, why are you budgeting? Are you paying for this? I was like, yeah, we'll pay for the. He said, who's paying me? I said, well, we'll pay you. He was like, oh, really? Why are you doing that? Why not just get the landlord to do that? And I just looked at my husband and I smiled and I said, you know what? That's a sign that we've arrived. If he honestly cannot imagine that we own this property, then that's good. But I think I took all of those challenges, rebuke, knockbacks, or whatever you want to call it, as a a challenge personally for myself to say, you know what, I've stepped onto the plate. I've got to make sure everyone around me step on the plate. We've got to change this narrative. If and I mean, no doubt about it. The property world is a male-dominated world, but I need to raise females like me, because I had found the light and I took it upon myself to say, I'm going to make sure I show others the light, to say you can do this. Because if I could do this myself without any sort of support or any sort of so obviously I got support along the line, but I started off without any support, without any serious motivation. I could be that light for others to say, this is possible. And I'm glad I've been able to do that. So I'm always up for a challenge any day.
Absolutely love that, and you're right, because this it has been a lot of industries are male dominated, and I love the fact that women are leveling up, and if not going to overtake men, because like that's what do you know what I mean? It's what it needs, and it's fantastic. So I love that you've used those challenges, and you've used what that person said to go, right, I am going to show people, I am going to be that light, I am going to push on, I am going to go and make these things happen. But also I love the fact of your vulnerability to say that you had those tough times where you were upset and it felt tough, and I bet that must have played on you as well, because we all have that voice in our head that goes, you're not good enough, I can't do this, you're not good enough, I can't do this, and these things bounce around. So how did you find it in yourself to push through those difficult times?
I'll be very silly to say that I didn't have doubts in my mind, because obviously the story sounds all good, saying, oh, well, I was all pumped up. No, absolutely no. I had doubts in my mind. I had times where I thought I'd made a mistake. And but I think I remember reading a book when I was 18, um, Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be, by Jack Canfield. And I read this book as an 18-year-old, and I told myself, you know what, Toyin, you're going to make it in life. And even though I didn't realize going back, at the time, what I did was, I've always had some sort of vision board. So I would have pictures of castles, large houses I mean, this is even as far back as even when I was living in Nigeria. I'll have properties and pictures of properties abroad, where I had no thought or process of actually relocating at the time, but I had all of this in my visioning, and I think they all played in my subconscious, even though I didn't actually. So I didn't at the time know exactly what the picture was. But being a Christian and being a believer, I always trusted my process and asked God for help, and that sort of helped me in daunting moments, in times where I didn't know what to go forward. But beyond that, or in addition to that, I've always believed in personal development. I've always believed in actually equipping myself. So whilst I didn't know what equipping myself looked like or what exactly I needed, I always surrounded myself with the right network. And I look at my network a lot of the times. I was to say fortunately or unfortunately, but I always was one of the top in my network. But I I've always seen myself as a leader, and such made me realize that although I had a network of people that I was probably showing them the way, I made sure that they were always with a positive mindset. So whilst I was trying to strive for a network that would help lift me up, I was always making sure that I had positivity around me, so that the little I have wouldn't be dragged and stolen away. Do you, if you see what I mean? Because I mean, no doubt about it, I knew where the lapses were, and whilst I was looking for a solution, a way forward, I make sure the one I had wasn't actually zapped away from me. So in those very daunting moments, I allow myself to cry it out. I allow myself to feel the pain, but then get up. I don't dwell in that for so long, because the longer it is, the more difficult it is. I pick myself back up very quickly to sort of get myself on. And to be honest, it's not a case of that was happening then. It happened as at 2 years ago when we had a development that was really stressful. So it's moments that we still have every now and then. It's not a case that, oh, it's done and dusted, and now I've emerged as this young lady that has no challenges whatsoever. Absolutely no. I still do have those challenges, but I let my past successes fuel me to know that I can do this again, and also rely on the strength I get from God. So it's a combination of a lot of things.
Love that, love that. And I love the saying diamonds are formed under pressure, because that's what happens. We get under pressure, and those moments where you have a bit of a cry, things seem difficult, and then you push through, and that's where the magic happens. And one of my favorite sayings is Henry Ford: if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And like everything, like you've got your mindset bang on, because it is like, if you think you can do it, then you can do it, right? And that's exactly what you're embracing, embodying. So yeah, that's amazing. So now tell me, you're at this point where you're doing a few developments, you've learned from Homes on a Hammer, you're starting to do the BRR. So where did the journey take you from there?
So I did the BRR. That was successful. We knew that, okay, this is a steady income. We're aiming for £500 cash flow from every property, and we could do the rinse, repeats, make our money work harder for us. And that being successful, then I think the next step we then did one, and this happened. It was by chance again, but this is what I say about trust in the process. Opportunities will come, and as long as you're aiming and wanting to grow, when the opportunities come, you're able to seize them. So one of the agents in one of the areas that we had invested in, and we had built almost our parts in, we had built quite a few property, and we had built connections and had quite a few properties in there, reached out to me and said to me, I know this is not normally the stock you would buy, but there's this commercial property, and you could actually convert it to residential, and literally gave me the full lowdown. I went to see the property, and being Toyin, I love a new challenge. I was like, why not? Let's do it. Bought the property, then realized that it was a grade two listed property, and I was like, whoa, what have we done here? And at the time, it was the biggest sort of development refurbishment that we had done. And so we had a lot of challenges with the builders and the rest of that. But like I said, I would never run from a challenge. I would rise up to it, because I know in that opportunities and like I said, the diamonds then come up. So we did that, and I just realized, oh wow. At the time, it was an office building that we could have converted to 6 apartments, but we went the easy route, and we just divided it and converted into 2 5-bedroom houses. And we sold one of them. And I said, you know what, this is a case of buy one, get one free. And was literally opened me up to, oh, wow, there is a lot of opportunities here. And that was while the world of commercial conversions, buying disused and empty commercial buildings and converting them to residential apartments. Came about. So we did that, then decide, actually, did quite a few offices, shops, banks, Barclays, Lloyds, and the rest of that. I'm actually seated in Lloyds Bank currently, which we converted to 6 apartments, and we still have the commercial space. So we did all of that, and then I thought, actually, this is, obviously this fast forward a few years, but I think going backwards, again, the other opportunity that came about for us was, like I rightly said, we had done a few reform. One of the dreams we always had, like I said, is I've always loved the high life, quote unquote, even though I couldn't afford it. I wanted that. So I've always been inspired to live in a choicy neighborhood, which we did by buying a rundown property, which we knocked down. And then I wanted to build a house that we're going to be very proud and happy to live in. And we did that. But in that process, we realized we had to stay in an hotel for 5 months. And then that's when I realized service accommodation is actually a thing. This is something we can, there are families like myself that will struggle and didn't have anywhere to live for that long. And boom, we did have a service. We went to service accommodation. This time we went for training and the rest of that, because obviously I needed to understand the whole process. But must I say that we had a large service accommodation portfolio just from that experience, because I had experienced it myself. I knew there was demand. I didn't need anyone external person to tell me is there demand for this, because I know living in a hotel with 2 kids and my husband for 5 months, they're going to school from there. It was tough. But I think the beauty in that is we were able to build a business from that.
Love that. Yeah, 'cause that's what I do in property as service accommodation. And you're right. It's like it's a fantastic strategy. But I love the fact that you've done flips, BRR, commercial conversion, and service accommodation. Like you're and HMO, so you just going right straight across. So you've gone from this job in McDonald's and you've created this amazing portfolio, and you're not only just nailing one strategy, you're nailing multiple strategies. So absolutely love that. This is so inspiring. So tell me, what's the path that you're on now, and what's your main focus?
Or one of the things we did not mention in that is that we do new builds now. So again, it's about opportunities. We obviously built our house, thought it looked thought it was nice, and then thought, well, let's give ourselves a challenge. And the very first one actually came from it was uh, I'd gone for this retreat in Monaco, and a business retreat, and I had been inspired. I think somebody shared how they had partnered with a builder to do development, and I thought, okay, why not? And at the time, one of our main contractor, did say to me, Tony, you see, you guys are doing fantastic things. I want a taste of this. If there's any way I can come in, and I thought, okay, why not? There was this land that we could actually buy, and I thought, why not open up to see what else we could do? So coming across this land, I got introduced by my architect, and it was a big build. I think it was to build 18 apartments. I'd not done something on that scale. I'd converted 12 apartments, well, converted commercial building to 12, but I'd not bought a new build. So I thought, well, I mean, I was wise enough to say I'm happy to split profit. So I had this conversation with the builder. He was happy. We decided to sort of buy this land, and I think we bought a priority auction. It was an auction purchase, but we bought a priority auction. Anyway, it didn't work. Long and short is, it didn't work out with this building contractor. He had some financial issues and he had to pull out. But I didn't. I mean, whilst that was such a, which is again making you understand that it's not been a rosy journey. Whilst that was such a knockback, and it literally shook us, because we had to then move things around, try and buy him out, and use all the existing funds. And it just looked like, oh my goodness, what mess have I got myself in? But in all of that process, one of our commercial buildings we're lucky enough to have that. It had a land on the side, and we looked at what we could do. We had developed that the commercial building into 4 apartments. We looked at this land on the side and said, you know what, we'll do a new build. So obviously, even though we had not done that building, we had fooled ourselves with the information we needed and the encouragement we needed to do this. And then we went on. So now we're doing, I mean, our current project, which I think piling has just started on, it's a build of 12 apartments. So we have that ongoing at the moment. Pipeline has just started. We have another new build sites that we sort of building 2 apartments, and so sort of still doing things like that. And we still have the service accommodation portfolio. What I've not said in all of this is, it sounds beautiful. It would have been amazing if I did all of this myself. However, no, since then I think we realized that we wanted to be an employer of labor, so we have quite a big team behind us now, which we employ, and they have an office that we stay in, which is one of our commercial buildings. And yeah, we've just literally scaled up. I know that the future is bright, and I know there's still a lot that I'm doing. I think in all of this, what we've done is, obviously people have watched our journey, and I've been very, very, I try my best. I'm not the best at social media. I try to showcase what I'm doing. But I think along the line, about 3-4 years ago, I mean, I've always done it, like I said, from day one. When I realized this was working, invited my family, friends, and started inviting them to do the same thing we're doing. But I think along the lines, we realized we needed to put a structure around it, and so we formed Icon Academy, where we obviously help people do exactly what we've done in terms of getting them on the journey, do property tours, masterminds, mentoring. We have online courses, and we do retreats. So next week we are off to Malta on a business retreat, taking about 9 people with us to obviously do a business retreat. So a lot of things that's happened over since then. But one of the things I really believe in is trusting the process, opening myself up to opportunities. Because if I look at my life and look at all the things that we've achieved, it's not, none of it has clearly been on the roadmap, other than the overall vision is there in terms of what we want to achieve. But it's the pieces of the puzzle has just come about as we've opened ourselves up to opportunities.
Absolutely love that. And you're right with what you're saying about building a team, because actually what you could have done is gone from McDonald's corporate job where you want to spend more time with your children, big portfolio business, and if you're trying to do it all yourself, you end up not doing, you're back to square one where you're just
Right one, yeah.
you're not spending enough time with your family, right? And I run multiple businesses, and people always say to me, how do you get the time? And you're right, like you need a good team, and I've got a good team that you can leverage other people's time, and it sounds exactly like what you're doing. You've built a team, you're leveraging other people's time, so you still get to spend time with your family and do the things and the reason where you started. And then now you're doing what you love, which is serving and helping people, which is now creating the academy, which sounds amazing. And Malta next week sounds fantastic. So if anyone's listening to this, how would they get in contact with you, Toyin, to become part of your academy?
Yeah, I mean, our email address is academy@iconrange.co.uk, so you can reach out there. But I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, and Facebook,
Love that.
Linktree.
We'll put
Yeah, yeah.
we'll get you to send that in, and then we'll put that in the link for everyone. So tell me, people coming into your academy, is it a case that do you teach them all the different strategies that you're doing, or do you focus on anything specific in that?
So I mean, we have, like I said, we have online courses which we also it's easy access. They have lifetime access. They can easily open up and just look digest the information as when they seem due. So on HMOs, on service accommodation, on a masterclass on all of the strategies, and focus on BRR. However, we do have a 6 month mastermind group where we actually take people in. I think I believe a lot in accountability, because I early on in days when I started speaking, I got approached by one of the big training companies, and I was speaking. I was doing some of their courses for them, and I realized a few people will come through the door, get pumped up with all of the information, and then fizzle away doing nothing. And that wasn't necessarily going to be part of my story, even though, yes, it might seem like cool cash. It wasn't going to be me. I wanted to be able to old people. I'd much rather people look back or tell their story and say that I've been part of their story. I've been able to help them to achieve, than just be one of those people that they've come across and didn't even make an impact. And I figured one of the ways I could make an impact was to actually be able to hold people's hands. So we have that mastermind there, and the idea is within that 6 months they're able to buy one property, use it for any of the strategies we've mentioned, but then be in a position where they can get their money and do it again. So build a portfolio, especially for anyone looking to build a portfolio of properties and create financial freedom. So there are lots of ways. Like I said, the retreat is there. We have a lot of free resources. Try my possible best to serve, really.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And you're right about the courses, because I work and teach service accommodation for progressive property with Kevin Paneskis and Caroline Benson, and there's lots of people that come through the course, and then obviously they can go and do the mastermind. And actually, quite a few people come on the course, learn it all, get excited, don't do the mastermind, and there are there's some really disciplined people out there, but majority of people will go back, and then life gets in the way, and you've got curveball, kids, job, all the negative thoughts from all family, friends, and everything like that. And actually, without the mastermind and the accountability, that's the bit that gets people traction. And I'm part of 5 different masterminds for public speaking, property, business. I run a tree surgery mastermind. And I think you're right, like having a mastermind, having the accountability, the support, the community, that's where the real traction happens. That's where the forward, thinking comes, and the accountability. And then that's when you turn up and, put those, I always say baby steps, but you put one foot in front of the other, and then you get that one property, like you say, at least in that first 6 months. And then before you know it, they build and build and build and build, and off they go. So it's definitely, a good thing to have the training, but then the accountability part of that. So love that.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I got maybe self-starters, self-motivated, and do it. And I rightly said, I didn't even have any training when I started, and I built a good side of our portfolio without any training. But that's not everybody. So, and I cannot rely on that fact that I had that motivation. Then I belong to multiple masterminds as well. And people do ask the same. I mean, I don't know if you get the question. I get asked a lot. That's Twin, you built all of this. You have so much experience. Why are you part of masterminds? masterminds. What are you being taught? I mean, I've just come from a 4-day training in progressive, actually, and so a lot of people just think, why would you need that? But the truth is, you have to constantly improve, grow. I mean, the day you stop learning is the day you die. So I'm very, very, very open to constant training. And some of the masterminds I'm in are peer to peer. And a lot of times I'm the most knowledgeable in the room, but I don't care. Just even being around people thinking along the right side, it reminds you of the things that you know, but you forgot to do it. How many times do we get told something? I'm like, oh, I knew that.
Yeah, it's
But you
right in
just
front
didn't
of you,
do it.
isn't it? It's right in
Yeah.
front of you. Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
definitely.
Yeah, you're right. The amount of times, and that's why I'm part of different masterminds. Because people go, "Well, you're part of 4 or 5 masterminds," and I'm like, "Yeah," because sometimes the things are just there right in front of me. But you're so mixed up in what you're doing and everything that sometimes you just need someone to go, "Have you thought of that?" And you're like, yeah, I know this stuff. Why am I not doing it? But, like Rob Moore says, it's a new devil, new level as we go up and we build and we build. We want that accountability. We want the support, the network. You are the some of the 5 people you spend most time with. It's the connections. It's everything. So yeah, absolutely love that. Love that. So the next challenge next week, off to Malta, off for a retreat. Sounds cool. And what's the next year kind of looking for Toyin and Toby and the property world? What's next on the list?
Um, uh, I think we're good. I'm going to be doing a lot more of seven. I think no, I think I will be doing a lot more seven. I'll be a lot more out there, overcome every discomfort I feel from actually putting myself out there, talking and whatever it is that sort of I mean, yeah, because like I said, I have a team with me. It's easy to most of the projects have been delivered. I'm sat here and I have quite a number of multiple sites ongoing at the same time. So my property is always going to be the baby or the main our main thing. That's not going to change. But I think I want to serve more. My main desire is to inspire people, to motivate them, to create real value in people. And so to do that is actually serving. And obviously I'm doing that through the academy, but there's going to be a lot more in that space that I'm going to do. But also, like I said, we've got that major build coming ongoing. The piling is ongoing at the moment. We've got another new build that's going to complete before the end of the year. If my builders listen to this, and
Yes, send in a copy.
send me a copy. And then obviously, like we've got Malta. We've got we had we have a few more retreats next year. So yeah, pretty much. And amidst all of that, I'm still open to opportunities. So we'll see what comes. It is. It's great. And sometimes people say, "Oh, why do you need to do that?" I actually, I'll say this about my dad. My dad actually asked me a question once, and he said, "I mean, I'm not pushing. I'm just wanting to understand why is it that you found this way? It's helping you so much. Why do you feel the urge to actually give all of this information for free? Tell me what exactly? How? I mean, are they going to become competitors?" And I was like, "Oh," and I laughed because I knew he said it from a beautiful place, but what he did not understand. And yes, have I raised certain competition in my local area? Absolutely, I have. But has that in any way made me poorer? Absolutely not. So yeah, I love it.
Love that. Yeah, you're right. People ask me all the time, why am I doing this podcast? You don't make any money from it. I'm like, because I love helping people. I love serving. I like sharing. And you're right about competition as well. I have it in my tree surgery mastermind. I'm all for competition. It levels you up. Also, it pushes you on. If you've got people that's good competing against you, you're going to push on. You want to keep developing, and it's great because then the more people that are great at creating value in the world, it creates more abundance and it creates more happiness, doesn't it? So love that.
Absolutely. It's our own little quota to give back to the world, right?
Definitely, absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Fantastic, Toyin. Well, it's been fantastic having you on. Have you got any final words for our audience?
I just want to say, whatever you do, make sure you furnish yourself with a lot of information, but most importantly, take action. You are the architect of your own life. Nothing is going to happen if you don't change, if you don't move things, if you don't change things around you. There's no fairy one that's going to come and change your life. You've got to do it.
Absolutely love that. Mic drop. Boom. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Toyin. Thank you for being part of Fail Forward, and thanks for everyone listening. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye.